welcome to Find Out Nation. I'm one of your hosts, Jaime.
I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
And we are here today to talk about what happens when a nation fucks around. They find out. We are honestly, I didn't know that we would be finding out so quickly, to be honest.
Or so deeply. Yeah,
Right. Mm-hmm. But holy fucking shit.
Every day.
How far are we into this Trump presidency?
78 days.
Not even 80 days in. And we are, oh God, we're about to fucking find out.
Yeah.
Okay. We have
not even a dumpster fire. It's like whatever's worse. The whole goddamn dump is on fire. I don't even know what to say.
The parking lot's on fire.
Yes.
All of it. The forest behind it's on fire.
Yes.
The store that's attached to it's on, it's all on fire.
Yes.
Everything is on effing fucking fire. So yeah. I love that we are in this place now because it really is like you guys wanted to find out.
Yep.
We're about to really see it go nuts. We are one day from the Chinese tariffs going live.
Is it tonight or tomorrow morning? Something like that, right?
It's tonight, overnight. They're supposed to go live. I'm assuming at midnight, but who the hell knows? It's anarchy. Who cares?
Right. Who cares? Yeah.
So we're going to get into the tariff conversation. We want to talk a little bit about the stock market, how bad we're doing. We have a couple of other topics for tonight. But tell me, how close are we to our midterm elections?
Midterms?
Yes.
573 days.
Oh.
I really need that to just be 73 days.
Exactly. Is there anything that could expedite
3 days?
Or 3 days would be great. I mean, honestly, I
will say... We voted today and I was like, I really could use, I could really use this day being midterms.
I know. I will say that I was extremely encouraged on the Wisconsin Supreme Court election that recently happened. But we see this so often where we just see these huge swings. And what's crazy to me is that there are enough middle of the road voters that can cause these swings of right to left, right to left. And you assume these people are the center voters that are actually like I have not voted Republican a day in my life ever. I never have.
I haven't since 2000.
I'm not one of these, and I don't know a single goddamn person, maybe 2 people. And so I'm like, who are these people that are so widely determining elections these days? It seems crazy to me, especially because, and I think we've said this on the podcast before, it really feels like the Democratic Party is looking for a shakeup in what they're supporting, similar to what Republicans went through when they introduced the Tea Party movement, and then that migrated into MAGA. Someone said that the name of our movement is not the Tea Party movement, so they suggested the kombucha movement.
Oh my God!
I said, I don't think that's us.
That's very. I don't really it doesn't have quite the ring to it
as Tea Party,
but I love the encompassing ethnicity of
the
kombucha.
It is at least somewhat
it's spicy. I like
that. Spicy. It's good for you. It's healthy. It is. Honestly,
there's nothing that a little fermentation can't fix.
Exactly. And let's be honest, it's better for you than the normal fermented juice I drink. So at
that's
the
what
end
I was
of the day,
say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So for now, I feel like we need to workshop this. The kombucha movement is our current best, but if anyone has any suggestions for what the next, what we're going to call the next progression of the progressive left, please leave that in the comments because I really need to get a laugh better than the kombucha movement. Okay. So let's start off with the tariffs because honestly, this has been all encompassing to most conversations that have been happening lately. So Trump has decided to impose this. So we had Liberation Day. Did we ever fucking find out what we're liberating?
No, I guess us from our money.
Explain that?
No, I think he's just liberating us from our money. I don't really understand what we're being liberated from either, honestly.
Exactly. So
From being able to afford anything.
So some of the funny things about this week. So I think you saw this like giant, like he had this big
Yes, the
cardboard
board.
list. Yes.
Yes.
Where he has all these rates. And what mainstream media has really been going over with him, with like really raking him over the coals, is the fact that, so I guess there is basically like a trade debt that you have with each country. So, like, if the amount that we import exceeds the amount that we export to China by 15%, they
Mm-hmm.
decided that the tariff rate that we should impose on them is like their GDP times 10, 15%. Like, there was a calculation. This
Okay.
calculation is the same calculation that if you go to ChatGPT or any of the other AI engines out there and say, hey, if I was to consider how to figure a tariff on a country, how should I do it? It was the answer
Girl,
that
shut up.
all of them gave. And so, I shit you not. And so the question becomes, like, I think it was even on Ezra Klein this week, like it was on Pod Save America, it was on all the podcasts, that like, is this indicative of some dumb shit 22-year-old
Big
Doge
balls.
intern just going out and using AI and saying, okay, how do I leverage tax? How do I figure out what tariffs I should put on everybody? And this is the answer that they came up with. Because the difficulty here is like, you have imports that can stem from like countries of origin, they can go to another country, they can
Yeah.
get added. So now with different rates, you've imposed like a lot of complication that requires
Mm.
bureaucrats to fucking figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've
Mm-hmm.
fired the entire federal government, but now you need to hire back people that are going to be tracking. Okay, did my iPhone, well, it
Mm-hmm.
started in China, but then it got sent to this country that has more favorable
The
tariff rates.
Singapore.
Right.
Yes.
And it was engraved with my name. And now it
Mm-hmm.
got sent to me by, this third company that is from whatever. And so what's the amount
So
that it's
what is the
tariffed at?
tariff?
Exactly. And how are we keeping track of all these records to make sure that countries are getting tariffed correctly? Because all these amounts are so different across the board.
But wait, I think you're missing the big point. Because
Uh-huh.
what I've heard is that this is bringing manufacturing back to the United States,
So,
and that within 6 months to a year, this is literally what the UAW worker that was in the Rose Garden with him said that day.
yep.
Like within 6 months, it's just going to be booming. It's just going to
So,
be booming. We're going to have factories booming like no business.
so this is my thing, is that I still feel like, and we said this last week, Trump is focused on bringing back like 1910, 1920
Mm-hmm.
America. That just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the last time that I like heard of an assembly line other than maybe auto workers. And we've already established not one fucking car is built in America. Now,
Well,
will the UAW put pressure on car companies to ensure that,
mm-hmm.
you know, their work, built in the United States fully? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it is like they get their steel from China, or they get their this from, they get
Right.
their a lot,
Uh-huh.
like, okay, I just got a new car. I can't tell you how much I love this car. It's my Hyundai Santa Fe. I thought I'd be too big a bougie bitch to drive a Hyundai and be happy with it. And I tell you what, it is the first car I've had in years that I'm like, I will never give this car up. And I love it because it's so fucking smart. I walk up to it and I've got
Mm.
my phone in my purse and I just have to put my hand on the handle and it unlocks. I'm like, oh, I love
Mm-hmm.
that. Like just shit like
Mm-hmm.
that, right? What differentiates that car versus my Volkswagen that I loved? I loved my
Mm.
Volkswagen.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I would pick this 6 ways to Sunday is because of all of the electronic features. That is not what the United States builds. We never have.
Mm-mm.
We've
Mm-mm.
never been the ones to build that. That has always been imported from somewhere else. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you are driving like Fords are not known to be the most like technology forward cars.
Mm-hmm.
Chevys,
Mm-hmm.
Dodges, none of those are like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
buy a Chevy because it's such a smart car. Like no one does that.
No one.
And
Mm-mm.
so that's my thing, is like, I appreciate that. Like, I guess here's my thing. I'm just going to like talk all the time and not let you have a word in edgewise because I like, yeah,
It's
you're
fine.
welcome. I'm so sorry.
It's
But
fine.
here's my thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants more jobs in America. And everybody, whether you're on the right
Yes.
or the left, we
Mm-hmm.
all want more manufacturing from America. I myself try and purchase from small businesses and from
Mm-hmm.
local businesses and from places that are in general local companies that I can do I look for goods that are made in the USA where I can? Of course I do, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I actively try and do what I can to limit things as much as possible to goods made in the United States. But I love my Apple products because they are so well made. And there's not a US based equivalent that I could
Mm-mm.
buy that operates like my Apple products. And this is the crux of a free market economy. And this is what I'm afraid an 80-year-old man does not
Mm-hmm.
understand
Understand.
because he doesn't care if his car is a smart car or not a smart car. He probably
Mm-hmm.
can't fucking figure out how to take a selfie on his cell
Mm-mm.
phone. Like he's too old to
What the
understand
man? Yeah.
that our
Mm-hmm.
economy has become an economy that doesn't, so it's not just American laborers supporting US backed goods. That's not what it looks like anymore. And
Mm-mm.
you are so out of touch with technology and reality. And this is the product of that. This is why I have such a fundamental hard time with tariffs. I'm going to stop talking and let you talk for a while
No, it's it's totally fine. I mean, no, I fully agree with you, and I think this is what happens when you have someone that
now. Understand economics.
doesn't understand economics, but is also unwilling to have a diverse group of people around him that can speak on all sides to try to make the best decision for the American people. Like that's clearly in any regards, whether it's tariffs, it's healthcare, it's the
Agreed.
education system, on anything.
Yep.
On anything. And his fucking MAGA merch is made in goddamn China. And so I don't and this is not going to bring back booming manufacturing. Like, there's a reason these companies started outsourcing this shit from overseas,
Yeah.
is because it was cheap. It's cheaper fucking labor.
Yes.
And like I saw on the news, I think it was what I was watching World News one night late last week, and this man that they interviewed runs a wedding shop, and all of his dresses are made in Vietnam and I don't know, Singapore, somewhere, another Asian country. And he said the biggest reason for that, A, obviously, is because the labor is cheaper, but also because there's no lace manufacturers in the United States. So all of that has to be brought in from overseas.
Yeah.
So the dresses are made over there where the lace manufacturers are, and then it's shipped in. And I was having dinner with a friend tonight, and I hadn't thought about this. His spouse actually brought this up to him, which I thought was super interesting, that with these tariffs, it's not just the clothes we buy, that kind of stuff. It's going to hit the restaurant industry and specifically ethnic restaurant
Oh, yeah.
industry
Yeah.
very hard.
Of course.
The Mexican restaurants, the Ethiopian restaurants, the Indian
Of
restaurants,
course.
because all the spices, all the shit that they get
Yes.
is not being made in America.
Well, girl, we don't.
And I should have thought about that, and I didn't. It hadn't even occurred to me yet.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yes, I had breakfast with Andrew, our friend Andrew, the other day, who was like,
Mm-hmm.
"We're not going to be able to to grow coffee the way Colombia can grow
Mm-mm.
coffee. Like,
Mm-mm.
we're not going to be
Mm-mm.
able to grow certain things the way that certain tropical climates are able to grow things."
You know,
And
we're going to end up having to drink chicory coffee
that's
like
right.
it's the fucking Civil War again.
That's right. And did you know that
Gross.
estimates say that if we brought the Apple iPhone into the US to build it,
Yeah.
and built it entirely in the US, like change that, it would triple to quadruple the price of the iPhone. So right now an iPhone is $1,000. It would go up
No
to
shit.
$3,000 to $4,000.
$1,000.
And let me tell you, like, who is going to be able to afford that? Can I tell you? So my
I
husband
still
told me
use
today.
Android because I love Android, and you know theirs are going to be just as
Just
expensive.
the
You know what I
same.
mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Just the
Mm-hmm.
same. So Nintendo, we are a big gaming household. Everybody knows we're a big gaming household. Like we have
Yeah.
everything
All
because
the
that's
things.
what we do. We game. The Nintendo was supposed to announce their Switch 2 today. Today or yesterday.
Pre-sale.
That's
Yeah.
right, the pre-sale. And they have delayed it because they need to wait until they see what happens with tariffs so that they can adjust the prices accordingly. I imagine
And the games are like $100.
this system that I would have anticipated initially to maybe be $300 to $500 is now going to be more like $600 to $1,000.
Which is
And who's going to buy
crazy.
those? Like I won't.
Right.
I'm not going to.
Right.
That's too
No.
much. I can't afford that. Like
And
I
if that's going to be that expensive, imagine what the next Xbox is going to be. Because the
exactly.
newest one that just came out this past Christmas was like $600 or $700.
Exactly. And if it's taxed at what they're saying right now is 104%, well, that doubles the price. That more than doubles the price.
Yikes.
And it's
Yikes.
not the company that's going to eat that. It's us.
Mm-mm.
And so
Yep.
I get the idea that again, I understand the point of the tariffs is to try and force companies to bring production of goods back to America. But at this point, so they're saying, like with China, that they're just going to stop selling to the United States, that they're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to change their financial model, and that as retaliation, they're going to open all these antitrust cases against, like they just opened like some sort of case against DuPont. And now they're looking at
Really?
Google and other companies to the point where it's like, what are we going to do to these actual companies? No wonder the stock market is absolute
Oh.
fucking tanking
Mm-hmm. Do
because
you know? Oh, sorry.
even like Apple, how are they going to keep up if that's how
Mm-hmm.
that is? No, go ahead. Say what you were going to say. Sorry.
No, what I was going to say is tonight, right before I logged on, um, one of the independent journalists that I follow had come out and said this afternoon that if the stock market drops by a certain percentage again tomorrow, it will be the third day in a row with such a significant drop and the first time since the Great Depression that they've had 3 days in a row where the S&P drops like that.
Good Lord. I mean,
I know.
I for the first time went out and looked at my 401k and it's thousands of dollars in lost money.
So I have not looked at mine because I don't have that much in mine. I don't know that Jamie's looked at his 401k. He looked at his IRA
Yeah.
and was livid. It's 60K
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And he's livid.
yes. Yeah. I mean, anybody that wants to retire right now, they're not retiring anytime soon. Like I would not be retiring anytime soon.
And everybody always says, like, because I've been seeing that on social media, it's going to recover, it's going to recover. But at what cost?
Yeah.
I know it took him like fucking close to 10 years, I think, to recover after '08 in his 401k.
Right.
Like to fully fucking recover from the losses that he had after the '08 crisis.
Right. Like
I'm like, he's.
well, because to your point, we have to get past the tariffs and they have to do whatever they're going to do. Then we
Mm-hmm.
have to stabilize because we know we're entering a
Yes.
recession. We have been told over and over and over again
Mm-hmm.
we're entering into a recession.
Mm-hmm.
And then the stock market will have
Have
to
a
begin
boom.
rising to the point that it gets back to where it was pre-tariff position.
Yeah.
That is going to your point. That's not a 6 month
Mm-mm.
recovery time. That's going to
No.
take.
And in theory, he's probably 17 years from retiring.
Yeah. Yeah.
If shit recovers like it's supposed to.
That's right. If it
And
does.
that, full retirement for age
That's
for
right.
him will be in
And,
17 years.
I think what's crazy to me is that every economist on the planet has said that a free market trade is the best thing for all countries involved. Like every single country having free trade is what will sustain markets, sustain economies, make sure that. And so this is people with long term degrees and knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
understanding of this, like for them to say tariffs don't work, period. We've tried it before and they didn't work. And we even
Mm-hmm.
tried it back when we were focused on industry and,
Mm-hmm.
assembly lines and shit like that. And it still didn't work for us then. So why we think it's going to work for us now,
And
I'm
I don't
dumbfounded.
I don't understand why we're actively trying to piss off every other country in the world
I
right
know.
now.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like at this point, you're,
Like, why are we being so isolationist?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
understand it.
So that's the other thing is like we're trying to, it seems like we're actively, I don't know if like we want to assert our authority or what the deal is. But the fact that, to your point, like it is all about just making countries mad. And it's not just the tariffs, it's trying to buy
Mm-mm.
Greenland, and it's the Panama
It's
Canal, and it's the Gulf
the
of
immigrant shit.
America, and
Yes.
all this shit.
Yes.
And every time we deal with any of these countries, we are always dealing with them, with the stick, never with a carrot. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why
That's a good way to put it.
I don't understand why we think that that is the right way to approach all these. Like,
Right.
you are a citizen of a world, a
A
global economy,
global. Yes.
right. And so just going in and trying to assert your authority, why do you, and do his followers like fall for that? Do you think that
Mm-hmm.
that makes him a better negotiator? Because it doesn't. Like, he
No,
just looks
because
like
no
an
one
idiot.
wants to negotiate with him.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they're all turning their backs on us.
That's right. Like I said, we're seeing that with China, who's like, no, I'm not backing down on your tariffs. Go fuck yourself. I'm putting in retaliatory
Yes.
tariffs. Oh, you want to tariff me at 104%? Okay, I'm going to start coming after your businesses. They're even saying like China, who is like, I think the second largest consumer of American media, of stopping all American media in China. So there's not going to be any more movies, not going to be any more like social media, all of that
I
going
mean,
away.
this is
And
what happens when you have a micro penis running your country.
exactly correct. When you have a teeny tiny, and they kept
Yes.
saying, we can't hire a woman because she's too emotional.
Too emotional.
She's too emotional. She could
Way
start
too
a war.
emotional.
And that's literally what we're seeing, is this
Mm-hmm.
goddamn fucking micro teeny tiny penis starting a trade war with a bunch of countries that are like, you're dumb. And that's the other thing, is that we just
Yes.
look so fucking stupid. So fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yes.
just, this one really befuddles me. The tariffs really befuddles me. I literally had to watch so much content and listen to so much content to even understand why do we think this is a good idea? Because it's so counterintuitive to a free market economy. It's so counterintuitive to capitalism and a free market and working in a free market economy, things that Republicans and Democrats have all agreed on in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden taking the stance that no, free trade is a negative, is just so foreign to how this country has run for decades at
Yeah.
this point.
Well, and so my thing on it is what happens when industry doesn't come booming back? What happens when all the millions that they're saying, trillions, whatever it is that they're saying we're going to make off these tariffs doesn't materialize? Who is he going to blame then?
I don't know. I really don't
Because he
know.
never takes the blame for anything.
No.
It's never. So who is he going to blame? Biden? Is
Right.
he going to blame Harris?
Right.
Who the fuck's he going to blame?
And
Hakeem
how
Jeffries?
and
Like,
how fucking frustrating is it that he keeps saying now the stock market isn't an indicator of the health of our economy, when all through the Biden
mm-hmm,
presidency it was all about the stock
mm-hmm,
market, the stock market, the stock
mm-hmm,
market.
mm-hmm.
And through the entire campaign it's like, if you want to take the stock market, you hire her. You bring in
Yep.
Kamala and the stock market's going to tank within days. Da da da. What I have to wonder is, if I'm a Steve Jobs or I am a Jeff Bezos, or who,
Mm-hmm,
like, let's be honest, this has got to, like, he's got to be worried about this. If I
mm-hmm.
am a, who's the guy over Google? The guy that no one knows, the guy over Google guy.
Sergey Brin.
Right.
Sergey, is that his name? Sergey
Who the
Brin or
fuck knows?
whatever.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
But if I am one of these like corporate CEO owners,
Mm-hmm.
aren't you scared? Aren't you like pissed? Aren't you like ready to yell and
Well,
scream from the top of the roof?
Right. So Elon Musk, I saw a story which I did no research on because I saw it late today. Um, I guess spent the entire weekend trying to talk him out of this, trying to talk him into pulling back on the tariffs. And
Girl,
Trump was like, no, absolutely not.
he
Is
went
that true?
on.
Have you seen that?
So I did not see that article, but he went on a podcast, and I don't know which podcast it was. It
Mm.
could be Seth Rogen,
Joe
Joe
Rogan.
Rogan, who fucking knows? It could be Seth Rogen. I don't know. Maybe that guy has a podcast. I don't fucking know. Everybody, every
We
bozo
all
out
have
there
them
has a
now.
podcast,
Yes,
right? So
that's
who knows?
exactly right.
Um, but I heard him going on a podcast, and he said, this is where Trump and I differ, that I don't believe in the tariffs. I don't agree with them. Like, we should not be imposing these tariffs, blah, 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 blah. And so this is where, because now like the Chinese electric vehicle has overtaken, like Chinese EV, I think is the
Mm-hmm.
company's name, has overtaken Tesla as the top electric car producer in sales, or not producer, but the top selling electric car
Mm-hmm.
now globally. And so I've got to believe that like Elon Musk is again terrified, as is
Mm-hmm.
like every other fucking business owner out there, including
Mm-hmm.
like the Koch brothers, the
Oh
Waltons,
yeah.
like all of these
Mm-hmm.
corporate business companies have got to be like, what the fuck is going on, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how you couldn't be.
Right, because even if I like run an American business, if if you're trying to strong arm me into taking my Ford vehicle that I at least have, get parts from Mexico and get electronics from Japan or China
Mm-hmm.
or whatever to put into my car, and now I have to like pay huge amounts of money, which, let's be honest, the expensive part of the car is normally all those fucking electronics, or at least I know that when I
Electronics.
have to replace one of the electronic
Mm-hmm.
pieces versus replace my brake pads or my alternator, like it's the
Mm-hmm.
electronics that fucking cost so much money. And so,
And it's not something that like my husband can work on cars. He can't work on that electronic shit.
exactly,
He doesn't have the knowledge to be able to do it. It's
exactly
not plug and
correct.
play.
Exactly correct. And so that's the part that's expensive. And so if I'm running Ford right now and you're telling me that I'm going to end up just in parts for the cars that I do manufacture in the United States, now I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucked. You're fucking like, I just don't understand how not
Yes.
all, anyway, it is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what happens. I will say that like,
Mm-hmm.
if it has the consequences that Trump says it will, I will eat my words and congratulate him on a job well done. Give me 6 months. In October, we will come back to this topic and let's see how we're doing. Like,
We'll see how
and
bad the recession is in
that's
six
right. And
months.
let's see where we are with the recession. Let's see where we are with American manufacturing. And make sure you're not just listening to what Donald Trump says, because every fucking thing out of his mouth is a fucking lie. Let's actually
Yep.
like look and see how are
Listen to
things
the
looking.
experts.
That's right. And let's see
Mm-hmm.
what prices of cars look like. Let's see what
Yeah.
prices of
Let's see
iPhones
where the
look.
price of eggs is.
That's right. And we'll go from there, and then we'll re evaluate at that time. Okay,
Yes.
moving on to topics.
Yes.
Okay, so can we talk a minute about Cory Booker and his goddamn
Oh,
heroics?
yes. Cory
Our friend,
Booker.
a friend of the podcast, messaged me today and was like, "Hey, make sure you bring this up because it's goddamn heroic." So Cory Booker spoke for 25 hours straight on the floor
Mm.
to delay, and can I tell you, like, so they asked him how did he not pee during that, and he's like, I had to prepare for days to dehydrate himself.
To dehydrate himself, yeah.
Like,
I
that's
think he
pretty
stopped
fucking
eating
amazing, right?
I think he stopped eating 2 or 3 days prior to
Yeah.
the speech. And the
Yes.
boy already doesn't eat that much because he's like a vegan or something. So
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't eat that much anyway. And then to go that, but yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I tend to agree with you that Cory Booker, I don't think eats a lot anyway, or everything that he does eat is
Yeah,
like a salad because he seems like that.
right.
But I
Yeah.
love the fact that, like, I mean, yeah, 25 hours. And after that, he goes on ABC's This Week and says, we're in a state where, again, the Democratic Party should own up. I agree.
We need to decide this is our fucking platform.
Yep.
We want every child in America that goes to a public fucking school to have free breakfast and free lunch.
Yes.
Because studies have shown that they don't learn shit when they're fucking hungry.
Right.
And that a lot of these goddamn kids are going home where there's no food at night.
Yep.
So by God, 5 days a week, they're coming to school where they can get breakfast and they can get a hot fucking meal.
Right.
And I want everyone in America to have fucking health care. I want our taxes to pay for it, because we should not all be worried about bankruptcy over our fucking doctor's appointments, or not going to the doctor because we have another bill that's more pressing, or not getting our prescriptions picked up because we have another bill that's more pressing than picking up our prescription. Like, the Democratic Party needs to fundamentally get rid of these fucking blue hairs that are mired in the old way of thinking and doing and are not interested in real progressive fucking politics. They need to figure out what the platform is, which I think that for the most part, we know what the platform should be. And they need to start fucking running on it. And they need to start daily saying, this is why the Republicans hate you. This is why the Republicans fucking hate you. Because they could do this, 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 and this to make your life easier with the fucking tax dollars you're already paying, and they're flat out goddamn refusing.
So to your point, like when you look at the number of people that were at the so you're talking about the hands-off protest. That was basically protesting, like, get your hands off our government. Like stop touching our
Social
government.
Security,
whatever.
Medicare, Medicaid, right? Like,
that's right. And that was on April 5th. And we saw millions of people. I mean, at one point they had anticipated 3.5% of the US population, or more than 11 million people, to participate. I never heard what the final number was of how many people.
I don't know.
Let's Google it. How many people were at the hands-off protests? Okay, so they said that they drew an estimate of around 3 million participants nationwide, protesting the negative, the problems that we're having right now has been absolutely amazing. And I do feel like that Democrats are getting rallied to show up, but it means that these people have to actually get out and vote. Participating in rallies, we know that these are like the people that are probably fundamentally most connected to the Democratic Party. And so at the end of the day, like, yes, all these people coming is great. And us like showing up and fighting is fabulous. But what we really need to see is how, like, rallying our deepest citizens that already believe in the things that they believe in is fine. But do you think these are swaying any of these center or left of center voters to change the way that they're voting when the actual voting time comes? You know what I'm saying?
No, because I think what ends up happening is that, so this is my thing. We are 573 days away, or whatever I said, from the midterms. We cannot possibly, and maybe this is a real pessimistic view, but I don't see how we could possibly maintain this kind of angry momentum for the next 573 days.
So, to be honest, it would not surprise me if we weren't able to hold on to it for little less than 2 years. That wouldn't surprise me, because I have a feeling like we're still in for even worse than what we already have. But to your point, I don't know that this will actually bring people out to vote that weren't already coming out to vote.
Gonna do it.
Right. And I don't know. So I love Cory Booker, like spending 25 hours on the pulpit just to protest Trump and the shit that he's doing. I love the fact that he's like, we have to speak out. We have to do what we can. We have to protest Trump and what he's doing. Like, all of that is fucking phenomenal. And I love it. And I want us to keep doing it. But I feel like the work that, like, right now Bernie and AOC are doing, where they're touring around the nation, they're actually having rallies, they're speaking to people, and hopefully they're enticing at least some people who maybe didn't vote in the last election, or are some of these voters that are like, well, I voted for Trump because I knew he was going to come in and just tear it all down.
Shake things up.
Exactly. And I get the same impression from Bernie. So let me sit down and hear what he has to say. Like, that's what that's what I'm hopeful is happening, and is where I find the most benefit to what's going on right now. So I say, if it makes you feel better to keep doing this hands-off movement, I love it. If it means like Cory Booker spending 25 hours to like protest it, I love that. And I want us to keep on doing that and keep that momentum. But if I'm really truly honest about what I think is actually going to help the Democratic Party, it's much more to do with like, we need to be campaigning today. Like that's the reality. And that's, to me, what Bernie and AOC are doing right now, if you ask me.
They need to treat every fucking day as if
they're campaigning. That's what Trump did.
The midterms are in a week.
That's right. That's what Trump did. Exactly.
Start taking out the TV ads.
Yeah.
Start putting up the damn banners, or I mean the roadside. You know what I'm trying to say? The billboards, like all the shit.
Or at least make sure that you are going around and talking to people and
get on
having
the news cycles.
And that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
And because these Republicans are afraid to do town halls, start showing up in Republican heavy
districts,
towns.
Yep.
Yes, districts. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
And start telling them, this may be what to your point, you may have voted this way because you thought X was going to happen. And this is not what you voted for.
That's right.
This is, we think this is what you voted for. But you're saying that this is not what you voted for.
Yeah.
This is not what you wanted to have happen.
Yeah.
This has gone off the fucking rails even for you.
Right.
And this is why you need to come to the other side.
Right. If you voted for Trump because you wanted help with your economic position, how's your 401k doing? And let me tell you how much better you would be if we had universal health care. Like that to me is simple. And it's a straightforward message. The other thing that I think we need to be doing right now as a DNC, and it's funny, we were having this conversation the other day about how much do we believe that political parties actually drive politics in Washington. And my personal take on it is like the DNC calls all the shots, and everybody that runs as a Democrat, probably the same as a Republican. Well, here's the difference. I think everyone that runs as a Democrat feels that and probably believes that if they don't have the backing of the DNC, they're going to lose, period. So they all cater to whatever the DNC tells them to do. I think that the DNC decided when Hillary's going to run, decided Obama was going to run. They decided that Bernie wasn't going to win. And so the conversation around was Bernie can't win. Make sure you vote for, whatever. So I have that belief. For the Republicans, it's not the RNC right now. It's Donald Trump. Everything that they're doing is trying to appease Donald Trump. Every decision that's made in the Republican Party is Donald Trump. I would love to see like a revisit of the DNC and try and determine, like, number one, do we have someone that runs our party that is that strong? And maybe it's AOC, maybe it's Cory Booker. I don't know. Maybe it's Hakeem Jeffries. It's sure as fuck is not Chuck Schumer. We know that. And as much as Nancy Pelosi, I think, thinks it's her, it's definitely not Nancy Pelosi either. And so who is the voice of the DNC that can actually come in and say, this is our strategy, this is what we're doing, and sit down and implement it? And then that strategy needs to be figured out right now. And every single Democrat needs to talk about that strategy. I don't want to hear Cory Booker talking about, we need to bring people in, the people from the center to our side. No, that's not the message. The message is, here's what we believe. Here's how we're going to make your life better. Here's how the Republicans are screwing you. This is how, if you vote for this, if you want these things, you vote for me, period. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Here's how we can. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
I'm right. Sorry. Yeah. That was my fault.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's talk real quick about, the Smithsonian. So we didn't really get a chance to talk about it last week, but the week that I was in the Grand Canyon, the president issued something about, it was like, what do they call it? The
executive order?
Yeah, it was an executive order, but it was called the Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which asserted, over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. Under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. Are you fucking kidding me? So basically
And
what
he
this
signed it
executive order
behind
said,
closed doors.
huh?
He signed it behind closed doors.
Oh,
It was one of the only executive orders that he did not do in front of the press pool with with huge fanfare.
indeed. So, and he wanted not one nary a question asked. And to your
Mm?
point, because of all the, and we talked about this before we ever started the podcast, that all the other craziness will distract us from some of the realities, some of the things that are a big deal, which is why I wanted to bring this up this week. Basically, what this executive order said is that we will, as a nation, no longer sponsor, no longer pay for, and no longer allow any type of exhibits in the Smithsonian that highlight slavery, racism, sexism, anti-LGBTQ, anything
Real
like that.
history.
That's right. So where we have been trying so hard to I don't know that as a white person, you fully embrace the cruelty of slavery until you watched Django Unchained. Like we saw that in an art form and
Yes.
it was like, holy fucking shit. I can't
Or you
it
watch,
happened, but we can all bury our head in the
yeah,
sands until we see it in a medium that responds to
1814 or
us.
whatever it
Can we
was. Yeah.
really embrace what things like this, or you read a book and understand the plight of what it was like to be a woman in the 1920s
Mm-hmm.
or a black
Mm-hmm.
person in the 1880s, like all of that. You
Mm-hmm.
can read about it in a textbook if you want to, but how many of us are really paying attention, in middle school about what slavery was like? But you fucking watch Django Unchained and you're like, holy
Or 12
shit.
Years a Slave.
Or 12
Yeah.
years. Exactly right. You watch that and you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I cannot
Mm-hmm.
believe it was like that. Like, I can't believe it
Mm-hmm.
was like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not until you have those types. And so this is what the Smithsonian is trying to preserve. And this is exactly what Donald Trump is trying to get rid of.
Well, well, yeah, we have an entire African American museum, Smithsonian Museum. Are they even going to be able to have their doors open?
Right?
Because God forbid we don't whitewash our actual history
Yep.
around what it's like to be black in this country, what it's always been like to be black in this fucking country.
Right. And there are exhibits on milk and the gay riots. There are
Mm-hmm.
exhibits
Mm-hmm.
on being a
Mm-hmm.
woman and like all
Stonewall.
of these
Yeah.
things. Nobody, because,
Mm-hmm.
and the reality is that in all fairness, white men don't care until they get spoon fed these realities in a medium that they do
Mm-hmm.
care about. My
That's palatable
husband
to
is
them.
not going
Yep.
to read a textbook. He's not going to listen to here's what Black history was like on a podcast. That's not his MO. He doesn't consume
Mm-hmm.
podcasts. Honestly, if it doesn't have a uh, carpentry theme, he might not even watch a movie at the end of the day. But
Yeah.
the one thing that he will
Yeah.
watch are action movies. Like he loves action movies. He loves them, loves them, loves them. And so to your point, I don't think it would have ever dawned on him, or he would have even ever thought to have the thought of
Mm-hmm.
this is what it looks like to be a slave in, early American life, unless we had
Mm-hmm.
had an art form that
Mm-hmm.
exhibited that. And to your point, like how many kids are going to the Smithsonian and seeing an exhibit and being like, hey, I want to learn more about this. And now their
Yes.
world is opened up to, oh my God, this is what happened.
Yeah.
The
Well,
fact
it's just like,
that we are saying
yeah.
this is
Sorry. Go
okay as a
ahead.
nation is absolutely fuck crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Is insane.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian museums are free for a reason.
Yeah.
So that if you can get your ass to DC,
Yep.
you have all of these museums to see and learn about
Well, that's
lots
right.
of history, lots of
Yes.
all kinds of
So
I can't wrap my head around it. I
to your
cannot wrap
point,
my
I
head around
remember
it.
being like AJ. I was a little younger than AJ. I was probably like 11. We went to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Air and Space Museum. I
Mm.
was enamored. I stayed at that museum for 2 solid days. My parents wanted to go to a couple of the other museums, and I begged to go back to the Air and Space Museum. this developed in me a love of all things like space, flying, this, that, the other. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love all that shit. And now like my child's even talking about someday he wants to be a pilot, and this mama heart could not be happier. I did not know about the Black women in NASA until I saw Hidden Figures. If we're not creating art and creating exhibits and creating stories and telling those stories in places like the Smithsonian, we might never know that these things exist. And now understanding how difficult it was, not just for Black people, but female Black people to be heard back then, really is like, yes, I understand that. I understand the plight now. I see how hard that was,
Mm-hmm.
and what we might have lost out on if we hadn't as a nation changed. And the sad part about it is that if I didn't know that story, I'd be really fucking sad. Like it's a story that shows our
Mm-hmm.
advancement as a nation. You know what I mean? Like it shows
Mm-hmm.
all these people that felt this way and then they changed over time. And as a nation, we got better because we did start embracing. Right. And
Yes.
so I'm like,
Yes.
that's a story of triumph and hope and
Mm-hmm.
advancement that now you're saying should never be told because only the stories of white men
Of
should
white
count.
people. Well, yeah, I mean, just like the U.S. military was removing documents relating to Indigenous, Black, Hispanic, and female veterans from our military history in order to elevate white men as the sole actors in our nation's history.
Yes.
There were 10 articles alone related to the code talkers from World War II,
Yep.
who we would not have won. I mean, they were instrumental
They were
in the taking of
instrumental.
Iwo Jima. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, I mean, the fact that that shit is being taken away. And other media outlets are noting that the Arlington National Cemetery website has deleted content about Black, female, and Hispanic veterans
Well, they even got rid
because
of
of this.
all the articles about Enola Gay because it had the word gay in it. Like they had to
Gay in
go
it.
back and add it back in because some
Because they're
dipshit.
stupid.
Right. Because again, it's some 22-year-old on Doge that's like, search, search and delete, search and delete, search and delete. Oh, it's got the word
Yep.
gay in it. Search and delete, search. Like that's what they're
Yep.
doing. Like that's how.
And I have not. DC is on my bucket list. I am dying to go to DC. I have told my family minimum 7 days on the ground. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not like, we're not going till I can afford to be there 7 days on the ground. I'm hitting as many goddamn museums as I can take. And they have no desire to go through those museums with me because I'm a fucking nightmare in a museum. But I don't
I
want
could
to
see that
go
about
if this
you.
is what we're doing.
You're the type
Huh?
that has to read every single
Everything.
placard
And I
and
want to talk about it, and I drive my family fucking
yeah,
crazy. Yes.
I almost said, "Hey, we should make that a girls trip because I would love to go back to DC. I loved it."
You and
But
you and Riley will have to leave me.
well, that's okay. Like in all fairness, like maybe me and Riley can be like, "Okay, you're in your happy place. We go through this very
Yeah.
quickly." Although we did really good when we went to the museum in Chicago. I felt like we did good.
That's true. To the
So,
art museum and
yeah,
stuff.
maybe
Yeah.
we'd be fine.
And I can speed it up if I have to.
Yeah.
But like if I have time to linger, oh, I'm lingering all day long. I'm the
Okay,
worst.
well, we'll talk
But
about a
I
girls
don't want
trip
to
for sure. Um,
yeah, but I don't want to go if this means
I understand.
all I'm going to learn about is white fucking
Yep.
people.
I don't need to learn any more about
It's so
white goddamn
goddamn boring.
men anymore. Yes.
Yeah. No.
Okay, well, we just have to wait until Donald Trump gets voted out. Let's hope that's soon. Let's
Yes.
hope it's soon.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
okay. I want to talk about two more things. You had
Okay.
brought up something with me that I had not read. Laura Loomer. Tell us the story
Oh.
of
Of Laura Loomer.
Laura Loomer. And we're not going to talk about the unfortunate nickname your husband's given her because I don't believe in attacking a
I feel
person's
like
looks publicly, but it's really funny.
I know.
And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So if you know
I
us
feel like I'm
personally,
losing
you
my
can ask us.
earbuds.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read from this AP article because it's better than what I had quickly written down. But um, last Wednesday, Miss Laura Loomer showed up
Who,
with a list.
for anyone that doesn't know, is like a right wing conspiracy crazy. Like,
Diehard MAGA follower.
yes. And it's just, and really that's it, right? She doesn't have a podcast that I know of. She doesn't
Mm-mm.
write for anyone that I know of. She literally has
Mm-mm.
just made a name for herself as a
She's a
really,
bootlicker.
really prominent it's sort of like being
Yes.
a Kardashian, right? She has no
Yes.
skills. She doesn't, but she made a name for herself by being,
She's like a MAGA Barbie.
yes, being a MAGA Barbie. Okay. Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, you're fine. So last Wednesday, she showed up at the White House, had a meeting with Trump, and there were other people in the Oval. I mean, she was in the Oval Office, and she had her little list of who she has deemed insufficiently loyal to Trump. And she said, these are the folks you need to fire. And he started firing NSC officials last Thursday,
That's
the
insane.
day after. Now, he on Air Force One,
Mm-hmm.
when questioned by the press, he downplayed it and he said, we're always letting people go. People that we don't like or people that we don't think can do the job or people that may have loyalties to somebody else. But Loomer appeared to take credit for the firings late last Thursday on X, writing, you know how you know the NSC officials I reported to President Trump are disloyal people who have played a role in sabotaging Donald Trump? Because they're no longer there. Yep.
What does that say?
Yep. Yep.
What does that say? Like, it's clear to me beyond a reasonable doubt that, oh, yes, he
Oh.
definitely, like, I don't understand the thought process there of retaliating against people. Like, I've never
Mm-hmm.
ever heard of like, I'm sure it's existed. And we know that, like, we weren't alive, or at least I don't think we were alive during, like, the Hoover lists and the, what are they, who
Mm.
was the other one?
McCarthyism.
McCarthyism. Yes.
McCarthyism.
Like,
The
we
Red
weren't
Scare.
alive
Uh
for all
huh.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
I know enough to know that was really fucking dark at that time. Like, it was a bad
Mm-hmm.
time for the United
And
States.
the shit that J. Edgar did
That's
to
right.
people, the files
Right.
that he kept on that Hoover
That's
kept.
right.
Yeah.
And so I'm at the point now where I'm like, are we back to that scenario? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like, are we back to
Well,
that fucking
yes.
scenario?
Yeah. And I think it's even worse now because I feel like we should know better.
Yeah.
Because there are people around in our government and not in our government. There's people around that remember the McCarthyism,
Yeah.
that remember that kind of shit. And we've read about it.
Yes.
Again, we come back to educating yourself about things
Right.
that I'm like, didn't we learn this fucking
Didn't
lesson
we learn that
already?
fucking
Why are we
lesson?
fucking repeating this
That's
again?
right. How are
Yeah.
we repeating this again? That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
speaking of favorite conspiracy theorists, the one other thing that I wanted to bring up,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if this is going to come to fruition or not, but
Okay.
the one thing that came up in some of my social media this week was the fact that on Trump's inauguration day, January 20th, he called
Mm-hmm.
the border problems, our southern border, an emergency, a state of
Mm-hmm.
emergency. And he
Mm-hmm.
said that if he, so he called upon the director of Homeland Security and I think the director of, I don't remember, the national security, no, anyway, doesn't matter. So he called on
Mm-hmm.
at least the Homeland Security, maybe the director of, I don't remember, but regardless, to basically, it might have been like the FBI, but to basically come in and give him a report on whether or not they believe that the southern border is an actual state of emergency. And that is due on April 20th. If we get to April 20th and his operatives have told him that absolutely we are in a state of emergency, he
Which is
could
what they're expected
then
to tell him, right?
he could then invoke the Insurrection Act that would allow him to deploy the military domestically and to impose martial law. This would be a line in the sand that would be absolutely, there would be no going back on if this actually happens. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but the fact is that if it does, we could be in a world of hurt, right? Like, this is where I think we have to figure out what we're going to do to like, what are
Mm-hmm.
we going to do to combat this
Mm-hmm.
if that happens, if we have insurrection day and it comes out that, oh my God, this is what they're going to do. Like, I don't know if we invoke the Insurrection Act, and by the way, it's really sad that it's on 420. You made that comment earlier, like this could
Oh my
really
God.
ruin a bunch of people's 420, or it's the only thing that
Or,
will get us through. Like,
yes.
if that
Yes.
happens, I've really got to ask, like, what are we going to do?
So I'm Googling it because now I'm like, what the fuck? Because I've always heard of like martial law, martial law. Like, this is why we have a Second Amendment. Like, you need to have your, you know what I mean? Like, this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know. What the fuck? Do I have to go to work?
Yeah.
I feel like if martial law has been declared, fuck everybody. I'm not leaving my goddamn house.
Yeah.
But then what am I going to do with my one bag of pasta and I don't leave the house?
Well, to your point,
Like, what
right.
the
So,
fuck?
so theoretically, the way that he would invoke martial law is just in the
Mm-hmm.
cities and states that he wants to go in and be able to, like, just take whoever he wants to take. And right now, we're already seeing instances where ICE is detaining people off the streets with absolutely no due process. I know you have some examples that
Mm-hmm.
we thought we
Mm-hmm.
might get to today as well, but we know that we have situations where people are getting no due process. They are just getting snatched off the streets. If you impose martial law, and now Trump really becomes an authoritarian government, at that
Mm-hmm.
point, like, how do we stop him? And
Right. Well,
is our
yeah.
Congress in a place where they would even act to try and stop him?
Because
Or
they haven't. No, Mike Johnson's fucking feckless. No.
exactly.
And I know that I had seen some stuff on social media midweek last week when the hands off stuff was still being talked about, like, and I was seeing stuff online, and I always try to, okay, is this people just being hysterical and being like dramatic because they can? Because people were like, look, if this is your first time going to a rally, a protest, this is what you need to do. Take your, make sure you can only access your cell phone with a pass key. Make sure you write a phone number in Sharpie on your arm of someone you can call should you get arrested.
Yeah.
Do this, tell somebody where you're going so that they know if you're not back at this time, these kind of things. But I was also seeing things that people were saying, do not react, because there were rumors, which were obviously now were unfounded, that the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, that diehard MAGAs were going to show up in these major cities. They were going to instigate violence
Yes.
in the hopes that it would push him to declare martial law.
Yep. Yes. So I am curious, and this is where I think we should all prepare ourselves that it's a possibility. I'll be interested to see how, they said that the reason why Project 2025 basically talked about doing exactly this. And it even
Mm-hmm.
recommended that you delay invoking the Insurrection Act because you want to give yourself enough time to get rid of far leaning liberal employees in the government that could turn against you. You want to make sure that you've installed all of your cabinet members, all of, your picks. And like, he's been able to do all that. So exactly.
But this is literally the beginning of The Handmaid's Tale.
That's right.
This is what literally happens at the beginning. Like, not to bring it back to that, not to be all whatever about it, but literally, this is what happens at the beginning of The Handmaid's
So
Tale.
let me ask you this. Let's say it happens. Let's say on April 20th, he invokes the Insurrection Act. Do we see a scenario where hardcore MAGA supporters now see the reality as what it is? Or do you think they all buy in to this idea that we have a southern border crisis?
Crisis.
Right. Like, is that enough to, number one, sway center and, just left of center Democratic voters to get out and vote? And is that enough to like start making MAGA realize that the purpose the whole time was to take over the government and to completely gut it, and not to make the world better, but to get rid of all the like we were talking about regulations the other day, or actually right before this podcast, like Trump just dismantled the cryptocurrency regulatory department that Joe Biden had put in place. Not surprisingly, his family's trying to sell cryptocurrencies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole point, is get rid of the government, let our corporations rule. Let's have an authoritarian government that lets them do whatever they want and really turn us into an oligarchy. Like that is the end
Mm-hmm.
goal. Do you think that if it comes down to that the Insurrection Act is invoked on April 20th, that will sway any hard MAGA voters?
Mm-mm.
I don't either.
No. And I think these don't tread on me fuckers are going to be fine with it. Well, I say
I
that.
know.
I think a large part of them are going to be fine with it because they don't think that they're the ones who are going to be losing their
Yeah.
rights. They think it's still owning the libs.
Yeah.
They think it's getting rid of all these immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
They think that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But them as white men
Mm-hmm.
who are diehard MAGAs, but they're not going to lose their rights.
But
They're fine, right?
it just like, it shocks me how hypocritical these people are, where like Hillary and her emails, and yet signal texts
Mm-hmm.
are fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
the hypocrisy. And if Joe Biden had done this, MAGA world would have lost their, I mean,
Their
they
fucking minds.
literally would
Or,
have,
God forbid, Obama.
right. They literally would have come at people with guns. And it's like, okay, now you've taken over my government. That's it. I'm
And
shooting you.
And you know what's interesting is that, so on the 19th of April, it will be 30 years since the Oklahoma City bombing.
Really?
And I find it interesting that because Timothy McVeigh would have never been a MAGA.
Yeah.
And that's why he bombed Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Because of it was in retaliation for Waco and Ruby Ridge, and he was disillusioned because he'd spent his time in the military. And so I find it interesting. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that clearly not that I'm sympathetic with Timothy McVeigh's stances, but that's the turn we've made.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because the Timothy McVeighs of days gone by would have never stood for this
Yeah.
shit. None of this shit.
At least
ever.
you wouldn't think he would. Now, someone like Timothy McVeigh, could he have been brainwashed into it like everyone else?
I mean, I guess that's true. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like at least his philosophy was all about, you know, the problems in our government and
The government is overreaching.
and that's right, and the
Yes.
overreaching. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. So I bring this up
Yeah.
not because I'm trying to freak you all out, not because I'm trying to like conspiracy
But
theory
I
you
think it's
all,
worth thinking about.
but it's one of those things that I feel like we should talk about, especially because like it's in, right? Like Project 2025 clearly created a blueprint that was exactly this process almost. And
That they're following day to day.
exactly. And it's what they're following day to day. And so don't be surprised if it happens, and make sure you have a plan. Like I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, let's just cut our losses and retire to Mexico and be done with it. Like at this point, I'm just
Right?
so
Something.
terrified because you're exactly right. It feels like we're living the beginning of Handmaid's Tale, and that's just absolutely fucking terrifying. Although I do look good in a cloak. So maybe like there's good, bad. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. Okay. Well, on that really fucking depressing note, give us our,
Happy ending.
I almost called it our hand job of the week. Like this is where I've gotten to. Like give us our hand job of the week. Give us our happy
week.
ending.
Okay, your happy ending this week is coming from England.
Okay.
Because Lord knows it's not coming from the United
That's
States.
right.
So, a young English scroll girl has claimed victory over the large grocery/home chain Sainsbury's after she noticed all the girls' school outfits included pants with no pockets. Arguing that girls need to carry things too, a letter and petition signed and delivered by her and her classmates last year resulted in a new line of pants with deeper pockets.
Yes.
In 2024, her and her mom went shopping for her school uniform stuff, and she was irritated because they either had no pockets or they had pockets where the linings were sewn on or they weren't deep enough. Yes. And so she was literally like, we have to carry stuff too.
Yeah.
So she received a reply from the corporate management of that chain, apologizing for the lack of pockets and agreeing with her that the pants options should include them. The reply added that the feedback would be considered, and that was the end of things. She followed up her letter with a petition signed by 56 students at her
Good
school,
for
including
her.
boys, but this was not replied to. The next year, when she returned to the store, she discovered their gray pants with pockets deep to the wrist and little gray bows sewn onto the front two belt loops.
Oh, I love that.
So this is, and the picture of her makes me so happy. She's so sassy. She's standing like on this little street and she's got her hands in her pockets and she in her little gray trousers and her little blue cardigan. She's so freaking cute. I love it.
That's
I love it.
awesome. I love that
Makes my
because
little feminist heart happy.
we like the reason I love my hoodies is because of my pockets.
Yes.
Like pocket when
Yes, ma'am.
it's a joke, like a running joke, but honestly, like women need pockets just as much as men.
Pockets too. The one thing we should have carried from the 50s were fucking dresses with
Yeah,
pockets. I get so excited when I buy a dress that has pockets.
100%.
Why is that exciting in 2025?
And you
I shouldn't have
know,
to be excited
right?
about that.
You know, when you're buying a dress from a company that's run by women versus a dress from a company run by men.
That's right.
Because if it's run
That's
by,
right.
like, I'm a plus size lady, so I buy my clothes from a very specific stores. And the stores that I buy my dresses from, almost all, in fact, I don't think I've ever been able to buy one. Even like my pencil skirts will have at least like a slit pocket in the back. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I've ever bought something from them that did not include pockets, and it's glorious, and I love every bit of it.
Yes.
Oh, I love that story.
So good on Georgia. I love her.
Yeah. I'll try and find a picture of her and pop her up on screen.
Yeah.
Anything else that we want to talk about in this episode of Find Out Nation?
I don't think so.
When is your daughter
going
to get our new intro video done?
I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to
ask her
because we're a little over a month from graduation, and so I feel like things are hot and heavy, and she got very testy with me when she was like, Mom, I have a lot going on. I'm like, you have a 4-day weekend. And she's like, I have a lot going on. I'm like, okay, sorry.
Okay, well, I won't bother her. She's coming into town, next weekend for our
Easter weekend.
Okay, for our girl, we've got a girls' spa day, so I will not bother her.
Yes.
But if I get any MO, I will let all of our Find Out Nation know when we're going to have a new intro video, which I am very much excited for.
Hopefully soon. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for liking, subscribing, listening, sharing this podcast. I did find out that our podcast is doing surprisingly well as just a voice podcast. So if you don't have time to sit down and watch this on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, like everywhere that you like consume your podcast, we are at. So please, 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 if you don't want to watch us on YouTube, you're tired of looking at me with no makeup on, us just sporting our sweatshirts and want to pretend like we're super gorgeous, made up, blonde, flowing, whatever. Feel free to listen to us online. Also, we didn't get any comments on our last video, so I'm going to assume that our biggest fans have realized how much they love us and are just not commenting anymore. But for anybody that does want to comment, wants to comment on what our future anti-Tea Party movement should be called, please let me know. Because I really would look forward to that. And I feel like maybe we should have a website with a poll once we get enough people that have suggestions that we can vote on. Okay, this is what we're going to call the future of the Democratic Party. And then I'm going to send it to goddamn Cory Booker because apparently like he is the one that is trying to lead our party. With that said, thank you all so much for listening. We love you and try and have as good a week as you
keep the faith
voted for. Bye.
Yes. Bye.